Hi, my name is Lasse Rishøj. I'm a professional graphic designer and videographer. I have made designs, logos, and other stuff for multiple different companies, including the Danish military. Today, we will be checking out the Flames of Truth trailer for Final Fantasy XIV because Final Fantasy XIV is a game that is near and dear to my heart at this point, and I don't think you guys know just how amazing this video is. So let's check it out. So already from the get-go here, there's some design choices that I really adore. You can see that there's some sort of distortion on the lettering, and there's also this kind of what looks like to be burnt film when it snaps in a projector that shows up, which makes it feel like you're witnessing something old or maybe something that is part of history. And it can also show like a tension. As if that space and time is coming apart, which, you know, kind of fits what's about to happen. I also do appreciate that it's completely silent. I don't know if there's a specific meaning behind it, but it just, you know, like it just feels very poignant. It feels very serious. So, right off the bat, we will be talking a whole lot about blue versus orange in this video. And here we actually see that the dark blue skies are being lit up by this orange fireball, which is symbolizing that there's something that is breaking the normality. There is a change in what we're used to, and obviously it's fire. Everyone knows that fire is a little. The fact that we see more of them also shows that this is not just a random thing. There's actually a lot of them, meaning that something is actually going on. Also, as is the nature behind fireballs, they have like this trail of embers behind them. And here we can see that all of these trails are actually pointing up towards Dalamud. They're all leading our eyes, as if we needed it, to this giant ball of whatever it is. They, even though you at this point you don't really know like the scale of Dalamud, you can just see that this orb is massive. And you can do that because you can tell that it's taking up so much of the frame. You're actually only seeing about half of it here, and it leaves only like maybe 10% of the screen in the bottom left corner where you can see anything other than Dalamud. And that is even being used to show the little energy things inside of it. So it's just the fact that it's taking up this much space really gives you the idea that this thing is freaking massive. This here is actually also pretty important. Limsa Lominsa, everyone who's played the game knows, is... I don't think there's a place that actually flags as much with their military as much as Limsa Lominsa, which is the Maelstrom, and those are typically highlighted by all this red stuff, crimson red banners all over. And so here... they purposely paint Limsa Lominsa in almost exclusively blue, which goes to show that the blue is us and the red is the enemy. And the fact that you can see the red up in the top right corner really tells you that it's like it's coming down upon it like some kind of ethereal evil god or something, which is the case. But you can basically see that they take some liberties in making something that is typically more red, turn it blue, You can also see that it's both happening in Ul'dah and Gridania to really show that this isn't just happening in one place, this is happening all over yours here. You will here see that there is a transition from the blue down to red. And we also see like that it goes from blue from the left, red to the right. And it continues that by the good guys, our guys, being on the left and the Gallians being on the right. With the way that the color works, in our brain we have already interpreted it as the red and the Gallians are in the same boat. The right side in our brains right now is the bad side, and the blue side is the left side, which is the good guys. It's very well done. Here we obviously see the different captains, and we make sure that to pan up to see them. We understand that these people are people of stature that are commanding because they are standing up above, so they have a better view on the battlefield. But we can also see that they're taking some liberties here, again with the Maelstrom. If you look to the far right here, you can actually see the Maelstrom Banner, which is typically crimson red, and obviously because it's nighttime it's a little darker, but it is almost more purple than it's red right now. And that is to hammer home this whole thing about the blue being the good and the red being the evil. And you might think that, hey, you're being a little crazy right now, it's just because it's nighttime. But then we see the exact same place, it's the same area, and we see Gaius here standing and looking just as much as the other captains did, but his red colors are shining up. They're being lit up by the fireballs, and thus the red and the crimson orange colors come out. So we know that this is a conscious decision, because if they chose to have the same color and show it one place and not show it in the other, then we can therefore come to the conclusion that they are purposely playing around with the colors here to convey something. There's our dude. This here is our first shot where we see Dalamud compared to a human being, so we really get a sense of the scale here. We can also see those little blue specks in the big red orb, which is what's supposed to seal Bahamut away. It's the good sealing away the bad, and again, our brain is already being primed to relate the blue to good and the red to bad. The framing also helps emphasize just how big Dalamud is. It's also kind of genius that we see it up in the sky amongst the clouds, because we get to see how Dalamud is actually lighting up the clouds around the big orb. So we thus understand that it's not just, something being shined on Dalamud, it's actually Dalamud shining. Now we get to see the Warrior of Light crew. I actually like this sequence because, from the get-go, you immediately understand who these characters are, what they do, what their role is, and it just helps introducing the entire group in a matter of a few seconds. We even get to really feel just how these are living in the rows, because the tanks are actually the ones running ahead while the ranged DPS are standing back. When we see Sid here, we actually see that half of his side is shined up in red colors, but it is very remember how we talked about the Maelstrom Banner before, how that one was almost purple even though it's crimson red? Well, here we can see again that that was a conscious decision, because if you look at Sid's eyes, it's almost like they are not being affected by the red glow of Dalamud at all, which is to show that half of his face is red, but we still see the blue in his eyes, which is to show that he is actually Gallian, but he's against their actions. So he's kind of got a foot in both camps. Also here we really get to see just how massive, like, look at this. We saw this seal thing come out of Dalamud, and just look at, and this was just like a little thing inside this giant ball, and now we see just how huge it is. See how it's dwarfing everyone. Everything here just helps emphasizing the sheer scale of this giant egg up in the sky. Well, they call it an egg, but you know. Also, hold on, let me go back a little bit. When Dalamud explodes here, please take a notice of where the blue color goes, because it just disappears completely. Now it's just all orange. All the good is leaving. It is gone. And all it's leaving us with is this dragon of destruction. I love this shot. I really love this shot. When we see Bahamut emerge, we see that his wings is coming out of the fireball. He looks like an explosion with wings. He's destruction made manifest. Like it just helps. It's one of those things that Japan is really good at doing, which is just do something that is almost abstract to really just nail home a point. I love it. Can we? Is there a way that I can just like move a little frame by frame? Nope. Okay. This is new. We're trying new things here. Again, if you look closely here, we can see Bahamut is just taking up a lot of the frame. We really get a feeling of how massive and powerful Bahamut is here. Also, no blue inside. The way this is framed really gives a feeling of how, like, they could have chosen to take the camera back a little so you can see the top of the fire geyser of the explosion. But the fact that it's going outside of the frame, it turns it into an open composition, meaning that your brain is left to fill out the blanks outside of what we're currently seeing. And because of that, your brain, it automatically goes, okay, so explosion goes further than this. And thus we autocomplete it to explosion is pretty big. So the fact that we're this close in and we can see the top of the buildings, and we actually get all of the buildings in frame. We see the bottom, we see the top, and the explosion dwarfs them completely and is out of frame. It helps us understand that just like we compare those two and immediately understand that the explosion is much greater than the building. Again, what we talked about before, all the blue is gone. Look at everyone, they're bathed in orange. Everyone is being like dwarfed by the sheer presence of Bahamut. You can almost see it as a clash of two armies. The army of orange, the army of blue. And right now, the orange has just completely turned the tide of battle. The blue is on their back foot now, and orange is just sweeping in. Are we already here? When we see Bahamut flying, we see all these little... Oh, that wasn't pretty. We see all these little strings of embers following behind him. And we don't necessarily think that they're very big when we see them compared to Bahamut. They almost look like nice and everything, but we then see all of the explosions. We see just how much devastation it's causing. And we don't even see Bahamut like shooting them out. If you see someone like Goku when he's shooting a Kamehameha, he's like pushing himself back because of how much force he's pushing out. The fact that Bahamut is just continuing his forward momentum and these projectiles come out of him without even slowing him down or him having to do something, we really get the sense of he can just do this. He can destroy things without even like putting in any effort. When we see the Warrior of Light here, he's bathed in orange as well, but unrealistically so, because there's still little specks of blue on his armor and in his hair, if you pay attention, showing even against all of this, he has not given up. There's still that hope in him. Alright. So, it does something pretty clever right here. Which is something that our eye is... if we can follow something, we will. There's just a thing that our brain does. So, in all of this, you know which projectile to follow. It's this one here, because the camera is following it. So, once we get there, you will understand why, but you understand that this thing, we're following it because that was the one that was about to kill the Warrior of Light, basically, and then it's being stopped. We get to follow that. We get to understand. If it had just been a random projectile that we didn't get to follow, we wouldn't even really get that sense of like dread or what we have just prevented. Because if we just saw that shot right now and there was just like this rain of projectiles, we wouldn't understand what it was that Luswa was actually blocking. It's pretty great. Obviously, I don't think I have to explain a whole bunch here. Look at this clash between orange and blue. The orb is purposely blue to really drill this point home that I've been making. And the fact that it's this particular color blue, like, it uses the Gestalt law of similarity to explain, to help us understand who created this dome. And that is because the blue color we see outside is what protects them. And now we see our dude literally blowing in that blue color, and it's our boy Louisoix. But the dome breaks, and now all we're about to see is orange slowly being pushed back by the blue. Now we see, like, look at this. It's a fight between Louisoix and Bahamut, but Bahamut turns out to be stronger. Okay, this is pretty great. Take a look at, once we get to see Louisoix from behind, look at this camera trick they're about to do here. They are zooming out to show Louisoix becoming smaller and smaller compared to Bahamut when he descends. The camera purposely pans up to hide Louisoix, which is a clever way to almost dwarf Louisoix so much that he doesn't even exist. You can't really... If you start to pull too much back to get the same effect where Louisoix just becomes like a speck, you're also going to be making Bahamut smaller. But the way that they're doing it here is that they actually make Louisoix seem smaller. Now he's so small we don't even notice him. But we still manage to do this by panning up and stop moving back, so we still keep Bahamut in his same size. It's genius. It's so well done. So, Final Fantasy XIV is an MMO. I don't know if you've heard, but I don't know if I never played Final Fantasy 14 before Realm Reborn, so I don't know if there was any real agency in these places, but it serves as a great way to kind of show the big world that Final Fantasy 14 offers, with us seeing these different places that the Scions of the Seventh Dawn are now summoning this light from. Also, again, we understand the blue light as something that is good. So we now understand whatever these guys are doing, even if we have never ever played the original Final Fantasy 14. I actually did, now that I think about it. It got to level 5. Anyway, even though we haven't played Final Fantasy 14 or know who these people are, we know that they're on the side of good because they're summoning blue. And blue is good. And in this shot, we get to see Louisoix do a typical motion, typically when you see a general on the field, he'll go charge, he'll throw his hand forward. When we see Louisoix doing this with the light behind him, it's as if he's commanding those behind him into action. He's commanding this light. Even if we aren't being told this or see the light kind of change direction or something due to this, we understand that what is about to happen is thanks to Louisoix. And when you can explain magic like that, genius. Notice how there's nothing, him doing this. Normally, if you were, I won't say a worse, storyboard or anything, but if you weren't this genius, you would probably have, the light go whoosh, follow his arm to kind of show that he's commanding the flow of the ether or whatever. But here, they just know, if we make him do this, and we frame it like this, we know that people are gonna understand. Okay, Louisoix is doing this thing, and he's doing it with the power of friends and anime. There's also a thing I wanted to say here. I have notes, by the way. I'm gonna be totally upfront. I have notes over here. This shot here is actually pretty genius because we're purposely, even though we have already seen Bahamut descend down and push the clouds away, this shot here is once again above the clouds. The reason for that is because right now we are dealing with something that most normal men can't do nor fathom. This is the realm of the gods. We also get to see, but with Bahamut roaring like that, we understand, even though there's no dragon speak, I don't know what it's called, but even though it's just him roaring, we 100% understand, he's going, what are you doing? How dare you? We understand that he realizes this is something that is opposing him and he's not fond of it. As Bahamut gets captured, we see the characteristic square blocks building around him. The trailer has, at this point, made a point to show how the pieces making up Dalamud were squares as well. We are then using the rules of gestalt and similarity for us to recognize that they're now trying to do the same thing that originally sealed away Bahamut. If you have played Final Fantasy 14 in any capacity, you will recognize these different symbols around the orb, which is typically the symbols that are being used to represent the different gods of Eorzea. So we understand now that they are now invoking the power of gods to do this. And we even get to see them rise up oh, we are awakening the gods to face off against Bahamut. But as we get to see, they can't do anything against him. And that way we kind of, it's almost like a Dragon Ball power scale match. And now we understand, okay, Bahamut is stronger than the gods. Also, quick note, I don't know how many of you caught this, but I'll try and pause real quick. There we go. That's where Louis' staff breaks. I never actually caught when it broke. I always thought that it just did it in, like, as a, oh, yeah, by the way, that happened. But nope, this is the exact moment that his staff breaks. It's so cool that they leave in, like, details like that, because that becomes poignant and important later on in the story. Also, can we go back just a little bit? We see here that Louis is just bathed in red light. This time the light has kind of changed. It's now not as much orange as it's just crimson red. It's now like more powerful than ever before. Also, you get to see like the shield or whatever it is now breaking. You see like shards of glass on screen right now. It's really great. It's just like it's being dwarfed by the fire of Bahamut at this point. The music that was before reaching a crescendo when we were fighting against Bahamut is now slowly petering out and becoming almost sad in its tone. We threw everything at Bahamut and we lost. It's a great way of showing this hopelessness, like all we can do now is just sing this song to the end and then hope for the best. It's a really good way of really getting a feeling that all hope is lost. We also get to see all these different strings move up into this ball. We've already seen what these strings will do if they collide with anything. They cause this huge explosion. So with them all gathering into one ball, we just really get to understand just how, like, this is going to suck. Like, this is going to be a massive explosion. Everyone is now just painted in red. All hope is lost. But we get to see these like little specks of blue. And we get to see Louis cast this one spell. And the spell itself hardly even shines blue, because it's not him who's the hope yet. It's the people who he bathes in blue. Those whom he teleports away. He's doing this he's leaving the hope in their hands. He has understood, I can't do this. The best I can do is teleport you guys away. As Louis is about to get destroyed by Bahamut, he smiles, and a blue glow washes over him. At this point, he's done his part, and he believes the little hope he passed on to those who teleported away is gonna live on. Maybe, at best. That's his hope, and now he welcomes death. However, fate has other plans. Now Louis wakes up and there's nothing but blue. He stands before something that is out of focus. We don't really get to understand fully what it is. But we then later see it's the different seals used to keep Bahamut sealed away. The things that arose from the same place as the god symbol. Thus we can kind of infer that there may be some will of the gods going on right now. It's kind of hard to tell, but the fact that everything is ethereal, everything is so... like, there's no human structures or anything. We really get the sense that this is a world where we don't really fully understand what's going on. We can also see that even Louis is a little puzzled as to why he's here. But he clenches his fist, and we can tell that he kind of reaches an understanding. He has kind of figured out what's happening right now, even though he doesn't say it. And him, clenching his fist helps showing us that he's strengthening his resolve. But you can tell by the look on his face that it's not exactly something that he's super keen on, but he understands that it's something that he has to do. But we also see him look from his hand and look forward to show that he has kind of come to terms with whatever cards he understands that he's been dealt. We don't know what is fully going on yet. We just know that at this point in time, he has thrown his own emotions and limitations away, and he's now looking forward. He's determined to do whatever he has to do. And we really get the sense of that during this, where the camera zooms around and Like, again, it does a good job in showing just how tiny and insignificant he is. Just really dwarfing him compared to what he's about to face. There's this thunderous explosion of sound that hits us, showing us that Louisoix is now waking up from this tranquil world that he was just in. Check it out. But even though there is this explosion of sound, this quiet music still plays, showing us that despite of all of this, even understanding fully well what it is that he's facing, Louisoix understands what he has to do, and he's come to terms with it, and so he has peace of mind. He's fully welcoming what is about to happen. We can also see that his eyes are closed, and we see that he's thinking. As to what he's thinking about, the camera then moves on to show us exactly what he's thinking about. He's thinking about the Warrior of Light, shown by the axe that we clearly saw him wielding earlier. The trailer actually made a great point in framing the axe as the Warrior of Light was swinging it around. And it is also distinctly designed so that everyone knows who that axe belongs to. The way that this is also framed is that we see Dalamud above slowly descending down towards the axe, showing that he is now realizing that if something isn't done, even though he teleported the Warrior of Light away, this is not gonna save him from Dalamud. And so beast mode engaged. Woo! Every time. It's so good. It's so good. There's a shockwave, guys. There's a shockwave, and like we saw how we kind of saw how Louisoix couldn't really do anything earlier. He was just standing on the mountain and waving his stick around. But now he's just jumping up so hard that it's creating a shockwave. We understand now that he's more powerful than he was before. But there is a small thing that I need to show to put a little damper on all of this, I'm afraid. Which is that if we pause it right as he opens his eyes, you can see that there is a hint of red, which, as sad it is to say, is hinting at the unfortunate future that is going to befall our friend Louisoix here. Spoiler, by the way. There's a cool thing about how when Louisoix flies up here. Now, we kind of used to see this in anime where someone is flying really fast, or even Superman for that matter. When someone is flying really fast, it just becomes like this blur of light. But the way that there is this dome over it, it makes it look more like an arrow or a spear, and we can't even see the human within it. And I personally feel that at this point in time, that is on purpose. He's no longer a person. He is an instrument. He is a weapon shot by the will of the star. Up till now, we've only really seen Louisoix being all calm and collected. But now we see him like roaring like a cornered animal. It really goes to show that he understands that he's on borrowed time and that he has to give literally everything, every fiber of his being, if he wishes to defeat Bahamut. When we see Louisoix collide with this giant Giga Flare that Bahamut has summoned, The same kind of pattern that we saw before when they were trying to seal Bahamut away appears. We can even see the scrolling of the god symbols within this magical sigil. We understand that he's now trying to do the exact same spell, only this time by himself and not boosted by the energy that the science gave him earlier. It really helps us understand, like, again, with the whole power scaling, that what he before needed the help of being able to do, he can now do on his own. There's also a funny little thing. Again, don't know if you noticed. You might have. I wouldn't blame you if you haven't. But if you look at the circles that are now holding the different god symbols in them, that is the logo for Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn that we see ever so often. It's the same kind of circle, it's the same kind of fire. It's a fun little detail I figured I would mention. We also get to see that the circle that we saw just now growing even stronger. So now he's making an even stronger push than before. Like, look at this. Look how this in here was the original circle. Another circle and another circle. This is like 3 times. Like, we don't understand magic, but with the simple way that it has already primed us to understand certain geometry or colors and all this stuff, we can infer simple things. Hey, if this circle is strong, this circle is stronger, this circle is strongest. But Bahamut doesn't really care. And we get to see that plan backfired. There's this giant destruction, this shockwave. It's something that you've seen in many movies and anime before, or even cartoons. In like there's a giant shockwave of smoke, which is supposed to make us, the audience, go, "Is he dead?" And when we see this, we see that the fireball is this close to touching the ground, and we can kind of guess that if this fireball touches the ground, it's game over. So right now, we're kind of guessing that Louis is dead, and the fireball is about to touch the ground. And to really nail that home, you can even hear it on the music, that the tension in the music is actually building louder and louder. And then there is the, wait a minute. It's so good because, like I said, we understand if this big ball hits the ground, we did. So, to really just show like the power Louis Soir has, the ground bends down, showing that no, destruction is not going to happen now. He's actually removing the target, so to speak, from the fireball. Also, again, explosion is clearly blue. And again, we've seen many times before where this giant fire, this red fire, is dwarfing the blue colors. But here it's glowing up so much that you can easily tell the blue color on screen right now. Louis Soir pushes back. It's really, really cool. Unfortunately, we can see the cracks starting to show, both figuratively and literally. The camera is shaking. We can now see like just how much power Louis Soir is using. It's like if any of you have ever tried to really like do a physical activity to the point where you're just giving it your all, your body's also shaking. That's the same feeling that we get here. We can also, like, if we know what's about to happen to him or what has happened to him, we also understand that the cracks on his face is him literally coming apart at the seams. It does a good job right now in just focusing in on Louis Suar's eyes, showing that he's like his eyes are manic and they're not blinking. He just like any primal, I guess we can kind of stop being cheeky about it. Just like any primal, he has a very focused goal sprung on by the people who wish upon him, which is to crush Bahamut. And nothing is going to stop him. That's why he's not even blinking. He's set to just destroy Bahamut. And that is actually pretty important here. Because before, you could kind of get the feeling that when you saw him push up against the Giga Flare, you see the circle kind of come out as if he's trying to catch the fireball. But instead, now, it even actually... Hold on. It actually starts out here, but we then see, no, actually, screw this. Goes in to become... like laser focused, and then we see it shoot up instead. Now we understand what, like, it tells us something here. He has understood. I cannot block this fireball, but what I can do is that I can kill Bahamut. So he understands that if I can't push it back, I can push through it, and that's what's happening here. The fact that we actually can't see any sort of blue glow at this point actually tells us more about where he is than if we were able to see a blue glow. And that is that we now understand he's inside the fireball. If we can't see the thing that we now 100% associate with Louis Suar being the blue glow, then it can only mean one thing, and that is that that light is being obscured, and it's being obscured by the fireball itself. Just before Louis Suar shoots up, you can see this blue glow, which again helps us understand that he's now emerging from the fireball, which is a really cool detail. And again, it's so important that you do these things when you're dealing with things that us normal humans can't do. When you're dealing with things where you kind of have to use your imagination, it is so vital that you help the audience understand what exactly is going on, because literally everything can happen. And if literally everything can happen, your brain can go all sorts of different directions. You need to be kind of clued in on what is going to happen. And this trailer or little mini video or movie or whatever you want to call it does a great job in telling us all the needed information that we need to understand what is going on. There's a cute little detail here, but I actually don't know if I can show it. You have to kind of play it at half speed. But you can see here, it goes by so fast. I was actually very lucky that I got to pause. But you can actually see that Bahamut is trying to block Louis Suar. But as we all know, he can't do that. This image is so good. It just shows like this breach in orange and blue. We see the orange color on the left and the blue on the right. We see Bahamut being bathed in the light of the fireball, which bathes him in this orange color. And then we have the blue light shining out behind him. The cool thing is that the blue is purposely very it's a hard light, meaning that the edges of it are not very very soft. They're firm. Like you can immediately tell where the light kind of stops and where it starts, and that makes it look like a road, which tells us that that he's kind of paving the way. Him doing this is paving the way forward for everyone who is able to survive this encounter with Bahamut and Dalamud. It's also important to note that we can't actually see Louisoix at this point. At this point, he's not really a person. He's more of a, as I said before, a weapon wielded by Eorzea against Bahamut. When we do get to finally see Louisoix, the music has kind of quieted down a little bit, reflecting the calm that has now become possible due to the actions of Louisoix. Even as he's vanishing, he has fulfilled his mission, and he's content. The small blue flying debris around him can both be the people he managed to protect, or the souls of those who died alongside him. Obviously, it's if we think about it logically, it's probably pieces of Bahamut, but it's one of those things where the scene kind of changes the meaning of the different things that we see around him. There's a very striking image here, being that Louisoix with his arm out, but from the waist down, he's just smoke. We immediately understand what is going on, and that is that he's turning into mist. He is losing his corporal form, and that is probably due to having used all of his energy to stop Bahamut. That is unfortunately further emphasized when we see a close-up of his face, where he's staring blankly into space as the glow just takes over him. He doesn't even, like, normally in these kinds of things you would kind of expect him to kind of close his eyes and like smile, realizing he's done, like he has paved the way for the future and defeated the big baddie. But the fact that he doesn't tells us that Louisoix is already dead. He had long since lost consciousness, and he's just given the will of the people who summoned him and his own consciousness just drove him to do what he did. And we know this especially because he's all blue. He is the will of Eorzea, and those were the wishes and wills that he acted upon even after he lost consciousness. As Louisoix disappears, all we are really left with is this blue hole in Bahamut's chest, indicating that Louisoix, who at this point is the embodiment of blue, did this. However, even though Louisoix beat Bahamut and we get a big fanfaric explosion, that small explosion is ultimately dwarfed by the even bigger red explosion. Yes, Louisoix managed to defeat Bahamut, but he didn't stop the fireball. And so we are left to see the big destruction the fireball caused till it eventually engulfs the camera. This can kind of be used to give us the feeling that ultimately Louisoix actually lost. Nothing was really won here. And that is further emphasized by this shot here, where all we're left with is a world of red. Bahamut won and we lost. But as the camera pans up into the night sky, we see it covered in blue and raining particles, showing us that as bad as things are now, Louisoix paved the way for a brighter future. You can even see some of the charred remains in at the bottom of the screen here crumble in the red glow, showing how that the destruction that Bahamut caused is only temporary, while the blue light up top is eternal. And that is Flames of Truth. It's an amazing piece of animation, Square Enix has always been amazing at animating and giving us these really cool CGI videos, typically for trailers for Final Fantasy games and stuff like that. So I don't always think that they have as much information and conscious decisions behind their design choices, but with Flames of Truth here, it really feels that like every scene, every action, every color, everything in this video was 100% a conscious decision, and it has been thought through and then thought through again. I legit tip my hat to these amazing people who created this, and it was such a good way of starting out the next life of Final Fantasy XIV, being Realm Reborn. If you look at the very first Final Fantasy XIV trailer, which we can check out if you guys want to, it doesn't have nearly as much poignant information as this one did. And it just goes to show that now the game was in better hands, and I don't think that is an overstatement. So yeah, that is the first video of Designer Reacts. Let me know if you guys like this, if you want to see more of it. It is essentially just a smaller version of the show and tell videos, but I do have other plans in the future, going through various logos and stuff from either video games, movies, comics, or what have you, and give you my take on it and explain from a professional standpoint whether something works or if it doesn't. And if that is something that you would like to see, please let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and then I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care. Bye bye.